Hey everyone, Matthew Bochsler here today, and I am interviewing Laleh Hancock, who is the wellness consultant and expert for veteran affairs in reference to the Access Consciousness bars. And today's interview is really a curiosity on my part and a checkup to see what's going on inside of the American service, inside of veteran affairs, which in short is all those dudes who went out to protect our country and came back with a few limitations that the bars can address. So, Laleh, I'd love to introduce you and have you say hi to the world and tell us a little bit about you.
Hello, the rest of the world. How are ya? Matt, thank you for this. I know it started as just you and I having a conversation that we thought may desire to be heard by more than just you and me. And the journey actually started many years ago, even before I found the bars, Access Consciousness bars. I was working at an organization called Easter Seals, and we created a roundtable because we were looking at our military and the people that are serving in the wars of today, and what could we create that allowed the same thing not to happen as the previous wars, so that when our service members were returning home into their communities, there would be more of a welcome and more of a transition to a system than to the separation and the health issues that had occurred with the other wars. And one of that actually was, how can we make sure that every member, no matter which part of the military they were in, and no matter what their injuries were, because see, a lot of times the injuries may not be physical, might be more emotional, might be more related to their psyche actually than actually physically. And you may have others who are coming in and also have injuries, physical injuries to their bodies, and may need additional support in their transition into civilian life and into their families. So when I first came to Access, one of the things that was really important to me was, how can I share this amazing tool that doesn't interact with medicine, that's there for no matter what your age, your background, or whatever's going on physically in your body, to assist. And that's where the conversation started, is what contribution can this tool be? I mean, Access bars, if you guys don't know, is 32 points on the head. And that's it. You gently press certain parts of the head, and it's there to release, whether it's stress, whether it's these points of views, whether it is these memories that keep reappearing. Whatever it is that you and your body are physically ready to let go of, you just let it go. And all you need is a trained practitioner or a facilitator of bars to be able to give you a session. And what we found is, whether you're in the military or you're not, whether you're 2 years old, 90 years old, 100 years old, everyone can benefit from this gentle touch to their head.
Yeah, that the bars are, that was really the impetus for me to ask too, and it's just acknowledging how many of the men of our services come back with what you're talking about, Laleh. It's this emotional or mental or physical ailment or limitation that they got from the war, and now their family's stuck with it, can't do anything with it, and how the bars can actually change that. So the one thing I wanted to mention was, when I started the bars, I was a very mentally oriented person, being in technology for so long, and no one gave me a mental or technological sort of definition of it. And once I got it, and kind of, it allowed my mind to let go of that white knuckle grip, like, I've got to know what this is before I did it. But I'm thinking I might just tell the world what that was. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, because it's really more scientific than anything. And sometimes when we look at all these things that seem like they're intangible. We think they must be spiritual or metaphysical or something, but actually it's really scientific and simple. And it's when you have an intense trauma happen, let's say in this instance of war, your mind actually contains some chemical and electrical charges. It actually locks them into your head. And the bars, short and sweet, once you learn this technique, it releases them. And it happened so easy that even most of my friends were like, I don't believe it works. So it's almost like it's a non-denominational, and I try not to say magic because that doesn't quite address the energy, but like an instant pragmatic change in these problems that we think are unchangeable.
Yeah, like for example, the first time I had my bars run, and I came from technology background, government background, corporate background. I mean, I have 30 years in business. And when I first laid down and had this little session of bars, it was at one of my most stressful times in my life. We sold my house. We had another house we were buying. My business was booming. I just got married. My kids were in school. Like there was all the factors of my personal life and my work life that had stress factors in them. And it only took about less than 5 minutes for someone to put their hands on my head. And I felt the monkey mind go away. Like all those triggers of stress that usually you feel in your body, but you also feel in your head, just melted. And all I remember telling this person was, I don't know what this is, but whatever it is, I would want to tell the whole world about it. Because immediately I felt the change. And like you said, it's very pragmatic. We hold on to a lot of things within our bodies, within our head. Trauma especially, we tend to relive certain things. And with the military, one of the things that they shared with us was reliving the trauma of, I'm blanking on the name of that thing that explodes. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Reliving the wartime trauma, or?
Yeah, it's the wartime trauma. But what it is like, that their tanks are going in different places and they don't realize that under the ground, there's a name for it.
Landmines.
Yeah, there's another name in the military. But anyways, it's that it blows up from the pressure of their tank driving on it. And so, here they go from a moment of totally being healthy, totally having every limb, to all sorts of injuries that happen for them and their colleagues, their co-partners that get injured. And so when they return home, it's not just returning home. They're still living the nightmares of wartime. And for them, they were trained, they have to be strong. They have to be resilient. And that's one of the things that they don't know how to do. They don't know who they can talk to. And with the bars, it calms their mind. It calms it to a degree, though. It's not just like, okay, now I'm relaxed and 5 minutes later, I'm back into that pressure zone. It actually starts to remove those, not from a memory perspective, but from the reactionary perspective.
Yeah.
The things that are locked in that really are this post-traumatic stress. And it doesn't have to be just the military, but I know right now we're talking about the military. This happens in corporate America. It happens in not-for-profit organizations. It happens with parents with kids with disabilities. Like this is something like we all have. And the bars can assist in letting that go. And you get to choose, you know what I mean? A very different, healthy life once you no longer have all that trauma locking you down.
Yeah, well put, well put. Can you tell me more about the 32 points? I'd love to hear your angle on it. And because it seems like most of those are almost like a blanket foundational coverage of anything that could go wrong. And what happens when you touch these points with that, that wrong or looping energy?
Yeah. So, it's been about 28 years since the bars were discovered. They were discovered by a gentleman named Gary Douglas. And he found that there's 32 places in your head that actually have like these little indents, like this, the tip of your finger size. And each of them have different correspondence to your life. Like, for example, many of us, I remember even as a child, they'd say, rub your temples when you have a headache. Well, actually, with the bars, this is your healing band. And if you feel it, you notice that the top part of your head is more firm, but there's a little indent here that's a little softer. Well, that's your healing band. And when you press it, what you do is any points of views, any projections, expectations, any of those traumatic, anything you've locked into that zone, that area, the bars allow you to release it. And it's not this like surgically removing, it's just letting the energies that are stuck there just kind of dissipate and just vanish. That's the gift of this. And what it does is when you no longer have that solidified trauma, stress, whatever you want to call it, you and your body now have a different level of creativity, different ease in your body, and you can choose something different. A lot of times with the service members, what they would say is, because of loud noise, because of all these other things, they had issues at work. They had issues in their home. And bars, what it's done is, for the ones that we interviewed anyway, they found such a difference of no longer having that stress or that sensitivity to the sound. So they could actually relax their whole body and be able to carry a job, be able to be with their families without wanting to immediately go into a quiet room. So, different people experience bars different. But the one thing that's consistent, whether it was service members or their caregivers, or, we had doctors, just so you know, we went to Walter Reed National Military Medical Center in Bethesda in 2017. And when we went there, the plan was we were going to run bars for the wounded warriors. So warriors, individuals, service members who were injured during war. And they were coming into Bethesda for part of their healing of, whatever was going on, whatever surgeries they had and things of that sort. And we were allowed to run their bars, and we were allowed to run their caregivers' bars. And what happened is we were at the front doors of this hospital. So the minute that they saw us, people wanted to run away. They didn't want to come anywhere near us. They didn't know what this was. They just saw that there was this relaxing, zero gravity chair waiting for them. And then they got curious. They started to ask. And what we did is these little sample 20-minute sessions with people. And so we started with individuals who were injured during the war. Their caregivers. Because think about their caregivers. They love them and they don't know what to do. They're there full of stress. They're not sleeping. They're taking care of the kids. They're taking care of their loved ones. And it's been interesting feeling more helpless because they don't know how to relieve the trauma from the service members. Well, it started with them, and then we had nurses, and then we had doctors, and then we had, the ambulance, the person who drives the ambulance, and the person who is the helicopter, I don't know how you call it, pilot. And then, we had all these people that were part of assisting the service members also getting bars and seeing the difference it was making for them as well.
That's brilliant. I love it when it's like you started to talk about the team effect, or the communal effects of everyone letting go of all this charge that happened around trauma, and how I found in my personal experience, same things happened when people are using this particular modality around me, or people that I'm living with. It actually, I can't say how, but it actually improves my life. I'm more at ease. I have better focus, better quality of life. And so that's why I'm like, wow, how much could this mode of change be available to all of our service people out there when they're coming back? And you mentioned something about the loop, they get stuck in a loop. And what I noticed is that literally it's a quick discharge through the loop by discharging the electrical current in your mind that got you stuck in that trauma. So,
and what I love is actually the founder and co-founder, Gary Douglas and Dr. Dane here. One of the things they talk about is, bars is for everyone. It doesn't matter, like I said, your religion, your age, your background. It really has nothing to do with that. It's like a computer. Like, think about your head and your body as this continuous computer who has information coming in. We install apps and we install, all these different things that we use on a day-to-day basis. But we do the same thing with our bodies and our heads. We're constantly taking in information. We're constantly taking in trauma, drama, injuries, and everything else that's happening to people around us. And the bars, the easiest way to describe it is that at some point, your computer slows down when you have everything that you install in it. And now is the time to defrag your computer, take away all the things the computer no longer needs, so you can allow it to speed up again. You can allow it to actually be efficient again. And it's the same thing. For me personally, the bars has been one of the greatest gifts. It takes away my stress. It makes me feel good. And I get very creative. So where there might be some problems or things that are going on, like I can immediately, after a bar session, come up with like 5 or 6 different ways that I can have a solution, versus that of trying to like beat my head against the wall to try to figure out how do we get away from the problem. It takes the problem, whatever that is for you. And just like I said, when you have that defragging happening, you now have the ability to utilize resources that you have to come up with more possibilities.
Yeah. Hey, I know you have some more technical data on the past studies you've done, and I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah. So one of the things we did is we didn't do it scientific. Access Bars does have different white papers that have been created by neuroscientists and research people. So I'm not talking about that when I share this information. What we wanted to do was allow each participant to give us information to what's going on in their body. So in 2017, on February 13th, 2017, when we went to Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, we worked with 56 participants. And with each participant, we gave them a survey and said, okay, let's measure before we get started. Where are you? What's your stress level? What's your pain level? What's your anxiety level? And then we did the same thing after the 20-minute sessions that we did. We said, okay, the same question, now give us what is your pain level, anxiety level, and stress level.
Wait a second. Can I interrupt for just a second?
Sure.
So you said you just did 20-minute sessions.
Yeah, so we didn't even do 1-hour sessions.
Okay, I just wanted to get clear on that. Please continue.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, awesome. So one of the things that we had them do was, like I said, the survey, and everyone did it. So anyone who got a session did that. And just the 20-minute session, they saw a drop of 52.3% in their stress. Anxiety dropped 51.8%, and pain dropped 35.5%. Now, one thing that was really interesting is that we found most of the military service members that we worked with, they're so used to having pain that when they were like, they would put a survey of what they thought their drop in pain was. What they would put on paper was very different than what they would say to us out loud. So I really wonder if the pain level might have been higher than they actually allocated on their survey. but that's just
Sure.
me. You know, one person was like, oh my God, my pain was like above 10 and now it's a 1. But on the thing, they would put a 6. You know? So
Right.
once again, this is self-driven survey. This was them and their own points of view measuring. So it wasn't any kind of research on our part, you know, like our scientific reports. And then we did it in June. The number of people was 37. The sessions were between 20 and 45 minutes. And it was interesting. We added another component in there. We added
This was a second round, did you say?
Yeah, we did this at a different place. It was called Welcome Home Prosperity Fair and Aquatics Center. And that was once again at the same Walter Reed National Medical Center, but it was a different event that we were part of. And for this one, we made it be 4 categories: pain, stress, anxiety, and depression. And once again, between 20 and 45 minutes, because some people got 20, but some 20 wasn't enough for them. They actually stayed for a longer session. And it was interesting to see the numbers there again. Stress dropped 57.15%. Pain dropped 41.68%. Depression dropped 44.5%. And anxiety dropped 53.54%.
That is so brilliant. I mean, just an aside, the reason bars attracted me is I came in 40 years plus of chronic depression, but it'd been there so long, just like you're speaking about the military fellas having that pain there so long. I didn't even know I was depressed. Everyone else around me was totally aware of it, but they're like, oh yeah, that's just Matt. He's just depressed all the time. And even after my first session, I had the same results. I walked out of there undepressed, and I was kind of scrambling at first to try to find depression because it was familiar, but I was so happy. Luckily, I didn't get there. So that energy that you're speaking about is such an essential energy of bars. And can you talk about, you know, you mentioned earlier that it applies to anyone, like Gary and Dane said. It's not just the service members. And speak more to that. I want to hear more about it.
Yeah, what I love about it is that there is no one who's excluded from being able to benefit. You know, you can have, I've worked with lots of people around the world, actually, who have high heart blood pressures. I worked with people who had cancer. I mean, I've worked with so many different kinds of people, and plenty of people that had nothing. They were happy, jolly people who didn't have stress in their lives or anything else, and they still benefited. And this is the thing. Everyone's going to experience it different, and it depends on what's going on in their world to where they might even notice the difference. Because some of it is so subtle. Like one thing I found with the bars is that I've worked with a lot of people who have anger management issues, which a lot of our service members also had. The trauma was so big to them that they immediately, like if someone asked them something, it went more into fight mode than it was a conversation. And one thing that I found just across the board is people no longer have that charge, that defense to want to fight. It becomes more of this gentle energy of, yeah, you can fight. That's a choice you have, but it's not really necessary. You know, the charge isn't there anymore. And, you know, and I found personally for me, things that used to frustrate me, you know, being in corporate America or dealing with any kind of people I dealt with at work, I have a different level of allowance for them. Like my buttons that they used to push, the buttons are gone. So even if they push them, not much reaction happens because the buttons are gone. And I think that's one of the things that I personally noticed watching the behavior of different people who've had their bars run is that the bars assist in letting go those buttons that are no longer required.
Yeah. Well, where can people find out some more of the new, I think we have like a double-blind test that's almost complete. What do they call that? Peer-reviewed test of the access bars.
Yeah.
Do you have some information around that?
We have a lot of information that's being put together, and we have a lot of information that's already in place. And like I said, we had neuroscientists and we've had research people who are involved with this. BARS is in 176 countries. So this, in the last 28 years, has sparked many people's interest. And we did it in schools. I was in Italy last week, and we were doing BARS for 7-year-olds that have been doing it for 8 weeks. I'm just telling you, it's magic everywhere. So the best place to go find more information is you go to www.accessconsciousness.com/BARS. And then under that category of BARS, you'll find videos, you'll find some of the white paper that's been created around this. And also, there's a button there that says find a practitioner near you or find a facilitator, because we teach this to others. You know, one of the things that I love is that anyone, no matter how old you are, my youngest participant was 2 years old when I was teaching BARS. And my oldest participant was 90 so far. So it's something that everyone can learn. And once again, like we were talking about for the service members, their caregivers can do it for themselves, for their kids, for the service members. The service members, if they desired it, could learn it and do it for their families. It's just one of those things that anyone and everyone can learn it.
Yeah. And that's that piece that's really critical here. It's not like we're trying to get you into something that you have to continually do, you know, some sort of awareness update. You have to continually update. We just want people to have these tools so they can just like clear this stuff that's been so stuck in our culture for so long. So like Laleh was saying, the caregivers, they can come and take these classes. How wonderful is that? Now they've got that right there until it clears for the people. That's all of them.
Can I tell you, I used to be on the council for the governor's caregiver support for 4 years. And with the council, I worked with a lot of agencies, not-for-profit organizations. I used to be at a not-for-profit. And the caregivers are the ones that are always left behind. No one thinks about them. And yet they are the ones who take care of our service members. They're the ones who take care of the people who have special needs, disabilities, or taking care of the family. Like, the caregivers are such a big part of our society. And so I really, like, I have a lot of caregivers who take my classes and come to our events around the world. But what if every person, no matter how old they were, they knew it could be something else that could give them a different option for life? And that's really when I look at the BARS. For me, it's practical tools that you can teach to anyone, and it benefits them. Even my daughter's boyfriend, who's 22, he had it done once, and he fell in love with it, and he's taking the class because he's just like, oh my God, my mom has MS. I want to do this for her. And that's the thing that, you know, it helps the person who's giving it, and it also helps the person receiving it. And that's the gift of the BARS. As you gift, you shall receive as well. So it really is that, you know, your body and your head, your monkey mind, is also benefiting at the same time.
Yeah. And as Laleh and I both, we are facilitators of the BARS class, like so many other people around the world. You can find people in your area almost in any country if any of this rings for you. So in the meantime, for those of you who have that hungry monkey mind or mind that wants to know more, go to www.accessconsciousness.com/BARS to get the white papers and videos so you can see if it works for you. If it doesn't work for you, it's no problem either. Now, another thing that you touched on, Laleh, that I want to like really tell everyone, anyone can do this. If you have 2 hands and 5 fingers each. Oh, you knew I was going to say that. You don't have to have 2 hands or 5 fingers. You could have 3 fingers and 1.5 hands. We don't care. You just have to have a desire for the change this can happen, that can happen with this. You can do this or receive it. So
Definitely. Definitely. And if you guys are out there and you're also listening, like, you know, we just talked to some other people in Colorado about the efforts we had with the Wounded Warriors, which actually then our program became beyond that. It wasn't just people injured at war. It could have been someone in Germany in the military base who got injured, who also got to receive some of this. Like, we're happy to share with you what we know and what's worked, and, you know, the experiences we've had working with different kinds of organizations. So if we can be a resource out there for you as well for that, definitely, you know, contact us. For me, you can find me at accessconsciousness.com/Laleh Hancock. And Matt, what is your name on the account?
That would be Matt Bochsler accessconsciousness.com. It's kind of the reverse. Actually, it may work either way. But,
okay, cool.
Or on Facebook. We're both on Facebook. We
yeah,
want to meet you.
Facebook. Yeah, definitely.
If any of this applies to you guys, come and find us. We want you to have the change that's possible here. So let us know.
Definitely.
Text.
And there are thousands of facilitators and practitioners of bars around the world. So like Matt said earlier, I would be very surprised if there is a country that we do not serve yet. And if we don't, come open it up with us. Like, what would it take for every country to actually have practitioners? We even have them in places that you would least expect.
This would be a great place for me to say what she said.
And you know what? What if you can also have some fun? And that's the thing. Being in corporate America and working with not-for-profits and governments, I think sometimes people think it has to be all serious. And that's the thing. Bars has opened my world, my life, to truly the joy that I have with everything, whether it's my work or home. And so, you know, life doesn't have to be as serious as we make it out to be either.
Yeah. And, you know, there's always a time to be serious, but man, how nice is it when you have that new space in your life where you can choose to be happy whenever you want. And
yeah. And it doesn't mean there's no problems. I'm not saying I don't have problems, and I'm not saying that, you know, there aren't difficulties in my life, but I just have a different way of dealing with it now that I know I don't have to have one option of how I deal with it. Sadness. I don't choose that anymore.
so it's easier for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Those buttons, remember the trigger buttons? They're gone.
Right. Yeah. If you had 10 different ways to, let's say, exit a situation instead of one, how much easier would your life be? And I'm talking kind of generically, you know, but apply that template on anything, any place in your life where you've really felt stuck. And that's the net result of what's possible with the bars. It gives you all kinds of pathways to have a different change and a possibility with what is going on in them.
Yeah, and it's so much of what holds us back from actually succeeding is these points of views that we don't even know we have. I had some from my parents, you know, like my dad would say you have to work hard to make money. And when that went away, I realized, you know what? I don't have to work hard to make money. I can make money in other easy ways. So like, I wonder like how many patterns you're holding onto from what you may have learned in school, your family, the cultures that we have, society. But if you're willing to let them go, might open up these other doors to possibilities that you haven't even considered yet.
Mm-hmm. Well, Laleh, thank you so much for this interview today. It's been great. I really wanted to hear some of the content you had on the statisticals. And
thanks, Matt.
Yeah, how much better does it get than this? Folks, don't forget www.accessconsciousness.com/bars if you want to know more. And we hope to meet you guys in the world soon sometime.
Definitely. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, guys.